Yo, what is up, everyone? My name is Anthony. Welcome to another episode of Dude, You Never Told Me, a weekly podcast where I get to talk to my best friends. As you can see, our layout's a little bit different today. We're kind of missing one person. With me, I just have Devante. What's
Goodbye,
up, Devante?
Alex. What's up, Anthony? We're missing Alex today, but he's enjoying his time in Colombia.
Let's begin our show. We're talking about AI as a whole. As a little background with AI, I'm a computer science major. That's kind of what I got my bachelor's degree in. And then from there, I started working with interest in machine learning and AI, which I'm currently going for my master's degree. And so I kind of been following all the AI news. It's been really relevant to me. What about you, Devante? Why are you interested in AI?
Yeah, for sure. So, unlike Anthony here, I gave up on my dreams of becoming a master's. I am in computer engineering, 4 years bachelor degree, and I think AI, at the time it was called not artificial intelligence. That's like the newer name for it, but it's like was it language learning model was like the
Large
original
language
term for
model
it.
or like neural networks. You have
Neural
machine
networks, yeah,
learning. There's like machine learning as a whole is different from like AI. AI is kind of built on machine learning.
right. The more boring terms compared to the funner terms of AI, but yeah, I got into like the automotive space and the automotive like the self-driving AI aspect, and so we'll get into that more later as we go along.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think kind of going back to what you said, I remember my professor defined AI as getting like a computer to think like a human. Like that was like the
Mm,
underlying meaning of like artificial intelligence. And so, we've seen a huge, like, big boon in AI and how well it's progressed through the years. Like, what do you think about all that stuff? Like, ChatGPT is obviously everyone talking about ChatGPT. Everyone's talking
it's
about,
4.0 now.
oh yeah, it's the four. You have full access to that, and you have like Sora, and you got Gemini. I think it wasn't it used to be called
Copilot,
Bard? Like, that wasn't Bard like the old name for Gemini?
Bard, yep,
Yeah.
the old old Gemini.
So yeah, like what are your thoughts on all that? Like to me, I find it phenomenally interesting. Like we're seeing it go from the ground up. Like we thought Siri was super smart, being able to like ask questions to Siri, and Siri just knows the
I know
answer
that
and
was
all that
really
kind of
big.
stuff. But look at us now. We have like freaking like ChatGPT. I'm not like people are taking it to pass like the bar exam, taking it to pass like LSAT exams and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. For AI, I feel like it's practically a digital brain,
Yeah.
right? And it scales way faster and learns way faster than what a normal kid can learn, right? Like it takes us years
Yeah.
from an infant stage to where we're at now, you know. But to get to where an AI is progressively in a fast movement, like changing, and even within the last year, I don't know if you guys remember, back when Will Smith he like released a video of AI, and it's him literally eating spaghetti. And as he's eating the spaghetti, it looks all weird. Like the image is just distorted. His face is off, and the spaghetti's off.
Wait,
But
did
and
did
he's chewing.
he release that video, or did someone release that video of like an AI
Yeah,
Will
so
Smith?
so it's like I think somebody released a video of him eating spaghetti, and then he thought it was funny enough to like release his own video
Okay,
of AI stuff.
gotcha.
So he has like two posts,
Mhm.
and they're like dramatically different, and different in a way that it progressed to where it's like you have him like picking up the spaghetti and it's going everywhere, and then it finally hits his mouth, and then that looks normal.
Yeah.
To now, it's a smoother transaction of okay, the fork goes into the spaghetti. He's able to move the fork, and the spaghetti intertwines with the fork, and then he's able to move it into his mouth, and so it looks way better now. And that's only within like a year or two progression. And so
When
imagine
did the
if
first video
if
come
AI
out?
is able to like progress with that much within 1 year or 2 years,
Yeah. When did the first
you know.
video come out?
I believe that one came out either 1 year ago or 2 year ago.
Okay, so it's pretty
Yeah.
recent. Yeah, and like I think is it Open AI or someone when they debuted Sora, like their video like generation, product, it was pretty good. Like, if
Mhm.
you look closely, you can see some like weird AI hand issues. But from
Yeah.
afar, like when they scanned over like a landscape, it looked pretty good from afar. Like that's like that's pretty big. Like that's like the future of CGI work right there.
Yeah, for sure. Like Sora, have you seen their latest update?
I have
Like their
not,
latest video on Sora?
not yet.
Like they had a whole production of a balloon. Like the head was a balloon,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
they
Okay.
portrayed that balloon as a person,
Yeah,
and it goes like
that's cool.
through their daily life
Oh,
of a
interesting.
balloon
I'll have to
as a
go.
person.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Like not accurate, but it looks really smooth. Like in terms of what they're able to put
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, kind of going back to what you said about like, learning from each other. I would remember I was listening to a podcast by Radio Lab, and they mentioned like I think no, not Radio Lab. It was the Daily, the New York Times, the Daily podcast. They did an
Mhm.
interview with like the one of the founding members of like neural networks, who created the idea of neural networks, which has revolutionized AI as a whole. And he was saying
Right.
how his goal was to get computer processing to represent a neuron, which it did. And then, now that's catapulted machine learning so far. But in reality, he actually sees it as like a failure to replicate the human mind, because in his
Mm.
mind, in his vision, is that the human mind, as it grows older, it forgets things. That's just how it is.
Right.
It deteriorates. You lose memories and whatnot. But for an AI, you never lose memory. Like,
Well, they'll lose a storage center,
yeah,
a storage
storage center,
center.
but like most big AAA big companies have like redundancies to prevent that from happening. But as an
Mm.
AI, once it learns something, it doesn't. It's hard for it to forget it. It can relearn something better, but it doesn't just forget like humans forget. And AI, as you mentioned, they can learn at such a fast, rapid rate. And for if you do look at neural networks, you can just stack them on top of each other. You just connect them to each other, and that the new neural network will learn everything that was learned by the previous neural network. Humans don't really do that as well. And so
Mm.
in his experiment, in his idea to replicate the human mind, he said he failed because AI, a neural network, is just stronger than the human mind.
Mm. But yeah, I that's true.
Right, like it's like a whole nother caliber. And as I mentioned, like AI progression has seen is so dramatic in like the past 5 years. Like ChatGPT came out how many years ago? Like like '03, the one that we publicly can use.
Yeah, it was like last year,
It's
man.
last year, yeah. And
2023.
yeah, and now it's four is out, and for a fact they're working on like the next version, because there's no way they would release
Oh,
the
definitely.
old version, like the full point, like GPT 4, without having five in the back seat, working on it and training it, and it's
Right,
getting
they're already
better and
working on
better.
it. Yeah.
Right. And so like, I think, and you mentioned like, AI in cars, like that was people's first like kind of idea of AI, is that, oh, here's the Tesla. The Tesla's going to use a neural network to train how to be a self-driving car. That was the coolest thing. This is before GBT came out. And so like no
Tesla
one, yeah,
revolutionized like
yeah,
test drivers.
they kind of made like people care about AI again. I feel like it kind of got back into the mainstream topic. And so like that's kind of where I want to go, is that I don't work in the automobile industry, but you do. And so you have a fascination with like AI and
Yeah.
in the car world. And so to kind of like
Yeah,
see
for
about
sure.
that, like how in your experience in your profession, where do you see like where is AI in cars at right now, and where do you think it's going to be in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so let me give you some rundowns on the top AI car models, or they call them autonomous driving kits, but ADKs for short. And so they place these ADKs, autonomous driving kits, on top of vehicles, and those vehicles include right now it's or the big companies include like Waymo,
Mhm.
Aurora, um, Chevy Cruise. They just released their Zooks, and then some Chinese automakers. They also have some autonomous driving kits in China, only manufactured in China. But the big ones that everybody would know is Tesla. And I don't know if have you ever did the Tesla autopilot?
No, I have adaptive cruise control for my car, for my
Nah,
Toyota
it's
Rav4.
different.
I barely trust that. Like you can, my car also has like the automatic braking thing. It has like the
Yeah,
the
all
cruise,
the
like
sensors to
line
make sure.
sensor. I
Mhm.
was telling my wife like I don't trust this thing with my life, and so I don't, I still use adaptive cruise control, but like I'm like actively paying attention. I'm not gonna let it
Yeah.
full trust. Like, will you brake for me? me? Will you actually slow down if I'm in a traffic jam? Nah, I do that myself.
I see. Yeah. So the I've actually gotten to test it, and while you test it, you practically put in point A to point B,
Sure.
and then it'll start, but it only starts if you're in a certain like location in
Okay.
terms of how many vehicles are around you.
Mhm.
Is it a safe place to start? And then once the vehicle determines that it's a safe place to start, then it'll go into full autonomy,
Okay.
and it'll drive you to the
That's cool.
destination. And like I said earlier, Tesla, they are practically having free test drivers because every person that uses the autopilot, they spend a 10K for the autopilot, or
Right.
it's a subscription, monthly subscription, and they have to press an acknowledgement saying, I acknowledge that I will be using this
Sure.
capability,
Yeah.
and it comes with all these stipulations
Like
that nobody ever reads.
signing a
And so
waiver.
imagine, yeah, it's you're practically signing away your life to a waiver saying that if something were to happen, Tesla's not liable, and we'll give you the video,
Sure.
as much video as we can during that time. And so but that one is not, of course, fully comprehensible compared to Waymo. So Waymo, they're actually like a imagine like a robot taxi
Mhm.
where you call up an Uber or Waymo or a Lyft, and the vehicle has no driver inside of it. How
Yeah.
would you feel? You know, like it's seeing that the door opens, there's nobody inside. All you have to do is verify that you are the person who ordered the vehicle, jump in, and then go to your
Yeah.
destination.
Did I ever tell you that actually one of my first interviews was like for a full-time job was with Waymo?
Oh,
Actually,
really? I
so
didn't
this
know
is
that.
like after this is like
That's really
2018.
big.
Yeah, this is like 2018. And I was looking for a job. So like one of those jobs in the summer that like I was interviewing for was a contractor that was working on the Waymo project. And what I would be doing is just looking at like a dash cam or some sort of like camera view from a car and just pointing out like kind of like potholes, kind of point out on the road maladies that like a computer would
Okay.
need to be told, hey, this is a
Right.
malady and you need to perform X like actions when you encounter this like on road
You're
obstacle.
doing like visual data analytics,
Exactly.
literally.
And so in the world of AI, machine learning, I'm doing that reinforcement learning perspective of like, the car is driving, it's going to perform an action. And then basically my job would be have been to sit there at the computer and be like, okay, when the car did this, it actually did it incorrectly. This is what you should do when you see like a school bus with a stop sign pulled
Right.
up. This is what you should do when you see a train track and in the bars are like closing or whatever. And so that was like my job. And so like I was like, it was kind of like my only foot into like the world of like
Mhm.
autonomous cars.
So you're practically the tester,
Yeah,
like making
I'm
sure that the
the
vehicle
tester.
acts the way that it should be whenever it's confronted with a problem.
Right, right, right.
Man, right now they've like been able to make AI training models for that
Yeah,
now,
yeah. I
and
mean,
so
what
everything's been they call it data labeling,
yeah.
and it's been automized now.
So I
So
think
your
Tesla,
job would have been at the time
yeah, it
that
was like the
job
early
takes
era.
so much man
Uh-huh.
hours like to complete.
Yes. But like because it was done like before when Tesla started becoming more common. I felt like in like 2019, 2020 era. That's when Tesla became a bit more common.
Yeah, they're up and coming right before COVID
Right. And so
because
like
the Cybertruck was in 2020.
yeah, and so like what was the idea that, Tesla uses people's driving data as they're driving Teslas to like, train their model for all their AI because the assumption is, and they assume correctly, that if you're driving a car, you're not going to just be disobeying rules. You're going to be
Right,
driving as like a decent
a
person.
true human
Yeah, like a
driver.
human, true human driver. And so like that's kind of what they train their data off of. But like
Well,
one
until you
thing,
run into Tesla insurance,
I don't
then
own a
they'll get
Tesla.
you.
I don't know what that world looks like. I have to imagine that like do you have a clause for like self driving car insurance? But the
I'm
one
sure
thing
there is.
there's one thing I did want to pick your brain on. So during work they had like a presentation on using lidar for their own self-driving car. Like there was like a I
Okay.
think a research group within where I work that they were exploring like using lidar. But that part, the lidar is cool. I use lidar for work. It's like you get some good visuals and create good images. But what really stood out to me was he was saying how in the ideal future, like self-driving cars actually talk to each other. Like they don't just rely on
Hmm.
their own learning perspective. They talk to each other. Where if I can't see something or if I don't have a good view of something, I'm talking to a network of cars that will help
Right.
me connect to know more about my surroundings. Like that's where I kind of see like AI and cars going. But like that's that assumes that companies will have like a common standard to doing their
Yeah.
AI and be able to communicate on like either a Bluetooth network or an RFC network, something that will like, allow them to communicate with each other.
Yeah, that so I'm sure you work with security.
Uh-huh.
And there are so many security measures that need to be put in place for a car to communicate to another car, and then plus there's so many different automakers
Yeah.
or OEMs, and so it becomes a. I'm sure it will become a competition that, of course, Tesla has started. Who can make the best self-driving car, and how proficient can that self-driving be with the most minimum amounts of accidents
Right.
to people that are around them. And that's where the competition lies right now, is instead of the automakers having to create an AI or a self-driving model, or relying on or relying on partners to create it. So like imagine I am the vehicle maker, and then you are the person who supplies the autonomous driving kit. And so it's easier for me, who is already making vehicles, to be like, "Hey, Anthony, I know you're making this autonomous driving kit. Let's work together, put it on
Hmm.
top of my car, and let's go from there."
Okay. Yeah.
But the hard part with all that is, how much information am I going to give you as a vehicle manufacturer,
Right.
and give you that information to you so you can access my whole vehicle, right? Like
Hmm.
that's where the problem lies. It's how much is the automaker willing to provide that information to the partner that's
Yeah.
making the autonomous driving kit,
Yeah.
because it becomes an IP battle at that point.
Right, right. So we even to this day we see like joint ventures between like two big companies to create like a product, and they both share in the rewards for it.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
But then who gets the blame, right? So let
Yeah.
me ask you this. If you see, you as a person who uses this product, you see a vehicle, and on top of it you see like this black box, right?
Sure, sure.
And so if that vehicle with the black box were to hit somebody, what is the first thing that you look at? Do you look at, oh, that's the vehicle's fault? Or do
Yeah,
you look at the black box?
sure. That's true. Yeah, I mean, like
You
it's
know?
I think I read it's like a classic trolley problem where you mentioned like it's like minimum number of accidents. I mean, how is the car going to behave if like it's unavoidable that I'm collide with a train or I can steer off
Mhm.
into the sidewalk. That's like the classic behavior. Like, do I drive onto the sidewalk so I avoid a collision but potentially hit a pedestrian, or do I have this head-on collision and potentially put my driver at risk? And some poor
Or
soul has to
passenger.
like design like that morality problem within a car.
Right. And that's the hard part of AI,
Yeah,
because AI doesn't have emotions or
right.
feelings. And so it becomes a person, like a humanly moral, ethical
Yeah.
dilemma,
I
right?
mean,
Like,
speaking of ethics, I'm kind of gonna do a little tangent, but like, we can't talk about AI without talking about like deepfakes. Like deepfakes, that is
oh
like the
yeah.
whole world of like AI. That's what the boogeyman of AI is right now. We live in that, that deepfake world.
Mhm.
And so like, what do you think about that? Like, you talk about ethics and morality, like deepfakes, like are those moral? Like can you do it? We've heard there are some good stories about deepfakes. So I'm gonna give you two scenarios. So
Yeah.
Val Kilmer, like the famous actor from Top Gun and from like Batman
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and I think from Willow. So he had throat cancer. And so he lost his I think his trachea got damaged to a point where he couldn't speak with
Ugh.
his normal voice.
Mhm.
And it wasn't only until recently that he was actually given his voice backed, quote unquote, because they use AI to basically create a copy of his voice and allow him to
Oh,
speak with it. You know how Stephen Hawking has like his little like robot voice thing. They use that same like
Stephen Hawking.
technology. They use the same box for Stephen Hawking's, but they give it like Val Kilmer's original voice, or they matured it up through the age as he gets older. But now he's able to talk again, um,
Mm,
as his voice. And so like,
yeah.
so that's like the good side of deepfakes. And then we get into like the more sketchier
Mm,
side of deepfakes of like, I'm gonna have like President. Yeah, I think it was the New Hampshire primary or something like that, where they use like Biden's voice to do like campaign stuff, like a deep fake
yeah.
Biden voice to do like campaign stuff. Like, and so like that's pretty unethical. You know,
Right.
and so like, and then we get to more more comedic and still kind of ethical situation where let's talk something let's talk about something that's kind of mainstream with like the Kendrick and Drake beef. Drake created
Mm,
a song and he used Tupac's deep fake voice to make like to rap lyrics.
right.
Like that's
Yeah.
not normal, but that's kind of make a fun story. But like, is that the new normal? Should we just be concerned about deep fakes now?
Yeah. Let's unpack that for sure. Going back, this is this is a very political year for the U.S., and so this is something that the government should be definitely have high alerts on is deepfakes. You don't want the presidents saying something
Yeah,
outrageous
exactly.
out to the community and people. I feel like people. Okay, let's start from square one. If you were to come across a video on, let's say, TikTok or
Sure,
a social media platform,
sure.
how do you know as a consumer that that is real or fake?
Honestly, I think is this before like AI world or in the post
Oh,
AI
this is
world?
just current, like in
current
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 day.
times. Honestly,
Like
I truly
somebody
don't like. I take everything with like a grain of salt. We're like, it could be AI. It could be AI. Like it could be fake. Sure, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't shock me if it's fake. I think I would ask a question. What's the benefit of faking this voice entry? This what's like the political motivation behind it? And
Mm.
just assume that it could be fake because it could.
So so for you and me, like we're more versed in this, but for like that the average
Yeah,
common American
yeah,
citizen or even person in the world, like
yeah.
if they were to come across like a video of you and me like sitting here
Talking.
right now, and then like who's to say, oh, that video wasn't an AI. That was actually them like sitting there talking to each other,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can come back and know that. But like,
You truly won't. As far as I know, there's no true way to tell unless you like try to find like multiple sources. Like can I have like two different perspectives that prove that they actually use it. So if it's for us, they'd be like, hey, Devante, did you say this? We have a quote from you. Did you say this? And it's your chance to be like,
mm.
I did say this, yes, or like, no, I didn't say that. That's like totally fake. Like fake news kind of energy.
So then that gets into what you're just kind of getting into about the Drake and Kendrick, right? So Drake, he practically released a diss song where he uses Snoop Dogg and Tupac's
Yeah,
voices
yeah,
within the diss song. Is that like, so we know that Tupac, he's passed on, right? And so
yeah.
for Tupac, who has passed on, who can't
Consent.
verbally say or yeah,
Yeah.
consent to his voice being used on the internet to diss somebody, you know, like how does that fit? Like we everybody knows that Tupac has passed away
Right.
and he's no longer with us. And so us knowing that, oh, this person, it's obviously a deep fake, like a
Yeah.
deep fake voice.
Yeah.
So how does that sit with you knowing that person did not consent to it? But the diss song, it wasn't that bad. You could tell that it was AI, but what if they perfected it?
Hmm.
Which
To make
for
it
the
like
coming years it will
yeah,
be
yeah.
perfected.
No, I agree. I think we should, if we're gonna talk about the ethics of AI, we should talk about it in the perspective that if it does get, like perfected. And it makes me feel a little, for lack of a better word, icky. I don't like that word, but it makes me feel kind of icky in the sense that, they didn't consent to using the voice, and now you're basically putting your words in their mouth. The very classic example of
Mm,
like, oh, you're misrepresenting what I'm saying by like changing what I say and all that stuff. But now we get to the nth degree where you have the voice, but you're now misusing it. What if I were to walk up and be like, yeah, like, Tupac said X, Y, and Z, even though it's actually an AI Tupac that said it. And now I'm using that for
Right.
all of my, stories and news articles and like just like perspective. And
Now
so,
let's go a step further though. Like the next one would be the other person that was
yeah,
in
Snoop Dogg.
that was Snoop Dogg.
He's
He's still
alive.
alive,
Yeah.
right? And so like imagine having to wake up and then you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like I released a diss song, you know?
Yeah.
Like how would you feel as Snoop Dogg to
So,
be like, oh, I said that to somebody,
so
you know, even
I,
though he didn't say it, but
yeah.
it sounds like in this voice.
I'm coming in from two perspectives. So like when I first heard it, that's kind of messed up, right? You can't be using some person's voice, especially if it's not consensual. If it's not consensual, if you
Right.
just use Snoop Dogg's
Especially in a
voice,
diss.
he's still alive, and he's like, I didn't consent to that. Like you basically stole his voice, and that's messed up. That's ethically wrong. But then
Mm.
I sat and marinated and think about like, what if Snoop Dogg had consented to using his voice, but like he's just a busy schedule. Maybe he has like laryngitis, he can't rap too much, or maybe he just like, oh, I don't have the time. And so
So did
yeah,
he make
you
the
can
lyrics?
use or like
Is an
use
right?
lyrics, or like yeah, you can use my voice to say that, and I'll stand by what you say. Like and you just pay me like 50 grand for just using my likeness. Is
Mm.
a point where like if it's consensual, is it okay? Probably. If we it's like the idea of
How do you put a price tag on that? Like you just said, you
yeah,
know, you just threw out a number, 50 grand.
50
But
grand.
like how how do you put out a price tag? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, in
It'll,
the song, of course he's like dissing somebody and he's cussing, right?
right.
And so I feel like technically there would be a higher price tag for something like
Sure.
that compared to like a 10-second clip of I need an AI generated Anthony saying thank you to all our viewers, you
Yeah.
know, instead of you actually not having the time to do it, we just get an AI to do it. But like, how do you put a price on that, you know?
I will tell you what my project manager teacher told me in grad school. You know your worth. If you're gonna sell yourself for $1, sell yourself for $1. But if you think that your
Mm.
voice can command like leaders and like command like get people's attention, charge whatever you want for it. It's up to the
Mm.
at this point the record company or
The eye of
Drake
the beholder.
to like say, hey, am I willing to pay 100 grand for Snoop Dogg to say hello? No, but if I'm willing to pay 100 grand for him to say like a lyric that I wrote, maybe yeah, like, get him approval. We've heard stories where whenever we do interviews with people, we send the questions ahead of time, and they kind of give their approval, their blessing to do the answer the question. It'll be very similar. It's like, hey, Mr. Snoop Dogg, I wrote this lyric for you. What do you think? Do you like it? Do
Mr.
you
Snoop
agree?
Dogg.
And he'd be like, yeah, I
Mm.
agree. Use my voice. Pay me 100 grand. That's an easy 100 grand for Snoop Dogg. He has
That
to
is.
show up no like studio time. He just says yes, confirm, use my voice.
So if it's man, that's crazy.
But
But
even moving
you would have to
beyond,
already have had that status
yeah,
in order for you
sure,
to be able to charge that
for
absurd
sure,
amount. Like no Joe Blow can just go out and be
exactly,
like,
no,
yeah, I want, you know, 50K
yes,
for me rapping on
sure.
AI rapping on this lyric,
Sure.
right?
And if not, like I don't know how much you've kept up, but like Scarlett Johansson is now like I think she's suing or she has a complaint against OpenAI for using the
Mm.
likeness of her voice in their new AI assistant.
Oh,
According
jeez.
to the news articles, like they OpenAI approached Scarlett Johansson to voice their new assistant because she did in the movie Her, and she said
Mm.
no because she whatever reason she said no. And then they turn around and got like a like voice person, or even they even got an AI. We don't know that yet.
Mhm.
Did they get an AI to like do her voice? Did they get like a voice impressionist to do a similar voice to hers? But you get into
Yeah.
that world, like, yeah, like if I don't want to pay Hugh Jackman 10K to voice my Wolverine fanfic, voiceover, I could just go to like, hey, I just want a Wolverine impersonator to do it for me. I want a Hugh Jackman impersonator to do
Mhm.
it for me. I could probably get it for a lot cheaper than 10K. I could get it for like $100 at the most.
So are you saying like the cop who holds the copyright to a voice?
Yeah,
But how much of that so it's not particularly her voice,
yeah,
but it sounds very similar
similar
to
to
her
her,
voice.
right?
And because of that, they had to have used like an AI algorithm or
Maybe,
test model
yeah,
that is very similar to her vocal like her vocal
yeah.
pronunciations of words. And so how do you copyright a voice? You can copyright a song, but you can't how do you copyright a voice, you know?
Right. And so like, we're going to be interesting kind of like world where maybe the record company owns like that voice using that context. Like I own, so let's say, let's look
Mm,
at Taylor Swift's, songs. What if her record company's like, hey, I own Taylor Swift voice when she sings Shake It Off. Like if you use her voice in that context, we own that. But like if you just use her normal everyday voice, like, as she speaks, we don't really
mhm.
own that. That's maybe the new
I
level
see.
of agency. But let's take a look let's move away from the music world, enter the world of like movies and animation. you know what are the iconic voice out there is James Earl Jones, Darth Vader. His voice is
Mhm.
iconic. You cannot have Darth Vader without having his voice. You cannot have Mufasa's voice without having James Earl Jones be that voice of Mufasa, of Darth Vader.
Right.
As I told my boss accidentally one day, he's not young anymore. you
Yeah,
know
that's true.
um and so, like, obviously these characters are going to outlive James Earl Jones. And
Yeah.
so, is the next step for us to find another voice actor to replace Darth Vader in Mufasa, or is it actually better for us to get an AI version of their voices to continue the character along the way?
So do you think like that would create like a whole nother, because a whole nother like door, a whole nother realm? Because like right now, I feel like the movie industry, they kind of tug on our the heartstrings of nostalgia.
Yeah,
You know, like we want to hear that Mufasa voice.
yeah,
We want to
exactly. Yeah,
hear, that clear and concise voice that we heard when we were a kid or
yeah,
younger. But as the generations like come up, like it just happens to be that we live in a generation where everybody still is alive and then
right.
technology is still progressing.
Mhm.
But how much of that do we really want to be AI? Like, let's say uh, for Wakanda Forever,
Sure.
right? Chadwick Boseman,
Yeah,
right? He passed away.
yeah,
They could have easily, if they really wanted to, they could have easily put in an AI automated voice. Like Chadwick Boseman doesn't have to be in the suit because it has a helmet
yeah.
on, and so they could have easily put a CGI version of him
Hmm.
with his voice in that next movie. They strayed away from it, which I'm glad that they did because that would have been really messed up. But we're starting to see, as it is progressing and becoming better, we're starting to see that could potentially become what movie industry is moving towards,
Yeah, very
right?
much
Is
so.
using the deep fakes or
And
using voices that we're used to, but it's really not their voice. And,
right,
and another example would be Fast and the Furious when what's his name passed away,
Paul
like in
Walker.
real life. Paul Walker, yeah,
Yeah,
he passed away in real life, and
right.
then in the next movie they use his brother
His
and they
brother, and then they
CGI'd his
CGI.
face
Yeah,
and put in that deep fake of a voice, right?
right.
And so I thought that was to be on the main screen and showing like everybody, not even like the US, but the world,
Mhm.
right? That's on the world stage to be able to do that. It's like,
So
whoa, this kind of
do
opened up
you
another realm.
so I actually want to challenge you on some of the things you said just now. Is that you said that if they had used Chadwick Boseman's voice as like the Black Panther, just had another actor in like the costume doing being a superhero, but had
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman's like AI voice doing the talking. You said that's pretty messed up, and from a perspective, it is kind of messed up. But what if they actually had consent from the Boseman estate to be like, yeah, because Black Panther is such an iconic hero for a new generation of people, of comic book enthusiasts, of like
Mm.
of young black kids who want to be superheroes. Like, what if they say we actually can? Yeah, go ahead and use Chadwick Boseman's voice. All we ask is that you give us the script ahead of time so we can approve certain lines that we don't think he would have said. Do you think that still
I
would have been
see.
messed up?
Oh man,
So
it would have to
I
literally be his wife.
yeah,
Like
so
his wife would have to say yes because
exactly
like he's
they
already
said
passed, so you
mhm,
can't really get an answer from him.
right.
And so like I don't think it's a family matter. It's more of a if his wife says yes, because that's who would be hurt the most, right?
Right.
Like to
Exactly.
hear someone that you beloved
Yes,
for
like
so
your
long that
husband, your
passed
father.
away,
Yeah.
and now it's like being shown to the
Mhm.
masses as entertainment. Like if you're able to live with that, then okay, that's on the wife.
Yeah.
But me personally, if I'm not alive and like if walking if it's gonna financially, free her for the rest of her life, okay, I just might be like walking to go ahead and say yes,
Right.
like,
And so
because
like
it's no longer affecting me. It just
exactly.
affects the person who's still
Affecting your
alive.
state that's alive, and like for the most part they're doing you an honor. They're continuing your character that you've like you've breathed life into. It's obviously a good system. But like now we get into the world where what if you don't have a living estate to make the consent to make that consent? Like who gives you the ruling power over that?
But then that gives power to everybody to do that, right?
Mhm. And
And
so
so it opens another door of who really has the
the control,
power
right?
to, yeah, or the control to say yes, we can use people's voices, we can use people's images
Yeah.
in such a way or fashion that would be projected, to the masses.
Right. I think, AI and deepfakes and like faking people's voices and images, like that's going to change how we live as society. Like, I can spend another hour or so talking about all the different ramifications of it because like we're seeing, these similar trends but without AI. So like, just to go for a brief tangent, look at The Mandalorian. Like Pedro Pascal is the
Mhm.
voice of Din Djarin. But in the latest in season 3 of Mandalorian, he actually wasn't really on set at all. He had a body double be in the armor, and he just did
I heard about
voiceovers.
that.
And so,
I
like,
see.
what if that's like the new norm for like what if rather than we can't get like a triple A actor, a big main actor to be on set all the time, but we can get him to record a few lines enough for us to generate his voice, for their movie, and for us to be able to replicate what he says. All we have to do is send him the script ahead of time, so he knows exactly what he is saying, and so he can approve of
Right.
it. And that's cheaper because like you're no longer paying the actor to be on set to do all this stunts and do all that kind of stuff anymore. You're now just paying them to essentially just use their likeness, use it in an ad, like a photo, just using their likeness for your movie or content. So
I feel like that can get pretty
yeah,
hazy quick
it's
though.
it's a slippery slope that without proper guidance and without regulation, where it's going to change the world and the way every industry behaves. And like I
You'll
kind of
have
want
to.
to move away from like deepfakes are one thing, but like what if just like normal like everyday conversations, like like what if how do you think AI is going to interact with like people?
Oh man, so I mean AI has slowly been creeping in. Like it started with Siri, right? For
Mhm.
Steve. Like iPhone was revolutionary. And with Siri, it was the simplest of things where you can count. It went from, wow, you have an iPhone where now you can touch more than tap. It's a
Right.
touch with the haptic feedback. And then it went from touch to I can just speak.
Mhm.
And so everything, even now there's like I hate to do this, but there's like, hey Alexa, right? And then I just activated everybody's Alexa, but like Alexa and Siri and all these different names for all these platforms. But I feel like, what if AI people use it on their phones? They have Chat GPT
Yeah.
for and they have the little black dot with the white screen,
Yeah.
and you're able to
And you're
interact
just
with it.
talking fit. Yeah, it could be a
And now
nice
imagine
discussion.
if that was offloaded onto your phone. So
Sure.
now you'd
Yeah.
literally have a personal Jarvis,
Yeah.
and
At
it's
your fingertips.
accommodating to all your personal wants, needs, questions, and it's building on top of itself to adjust to you. Now imagine that for every iPhone, every Android, every whatever phone that's out there. So it'd be like, 600, or sorry, six, what is it, 6 billion, AI models, right?
Yeah.
That's accommodating to that one person per phone. And so if you had that, and if they're all connected, intertwined,
Mhm.
what is there that AI doesn't know about humanity?
There's ideally not. I mean, in that scenario, it'd be limited on what the AI was like trained to learn. Most times when you release like a GPT model, like Chat GPT, it's built on the GPT model, which has been pre-trained. And most times when you release these models, you actually freeze the training portion, so it no longer can learn new stuff. Essentially, so you'll be
But
limited
people
to
are
like
able to like have workarounds that on that.
kind of. I mean, you think you're teaching an AI to do something, but you really, not teaching
We're
it
not
anything at
teaching,
all.
but it's like go beating around the bush in terms of ethical values. So
Yeah,
they'll like put in an input where it kind of tells the AI model follow the rules without following the rules.
sure.
And so you're able to get a different output from the question that you would have put when it was following the rules.
Right.
Okay, what does it mean to not follow the rules? Give me
Yeah.
that output.
Yeah.
And then it'll have like AI's own
Sure.
rule model.
Yeah, you're teaching the AI like morality at that point. You're in a form of, laws and regulation. And that's like, if we, that's outside like the normal, like most models are just learned to like how to predict human speech and figure out what you want to know and how to search things up. But, what you're not introducing is like, yeah, regulation at a level where it needs to go deeper. If you were to look at it as an iceberg, if you're teaching an AI, hey, here are some rules, like AI should never say X, Y, and Z. Don't say that. Don't do this. You're setting the rules on like the tip of the iceberg when it needs to be set at the base of the iceberg, underneath all the water, underneath everything, so that hey, it doesn't process that. And we see that in some models where like we do prompt engineering. That's like a new craze in the large language model world, where what if in order to get better results, let's take what you've asked the AI to do and now let's change it to phrase it better, to trigger more neurons to like figure out your response.
So us as like common AI users, right? What would you use your AI for, like on a daily basis? Yeah, like if you picked up your phone and you just started using it, like ChatGPT 4.0, like
So
what would be something that you just use it for
I
on a daily
actually
basis?
use like smaller scale AIs a lot, actually, in just my everyday like existence for work and a little bit for like my own personal life. So for a while, I used ChatGPT to answer questions for me. Like I don't want to have to Google it. I don't want to be like, Google, what is the convert cups to tablespoons. I don't want to do that myself. I just say, hey, ChatGPT, like how many tablespoons equals a cup, and then boom, answer there. I don't have to like scroll. I don't have to like try to guess. I just accept it at enough value to.
But that's like general knowledge, right? Like,
Right.
how about like on a personal level? Like, what the same way? So the topic is AI and people. So the same way that I would come to you, Anthony, with a problem, and I want to talk to you about this person who's been bothering me, right? Because I'm mad.
Yeah.
You don't know the person, but I just want to talk to you. I just want to get off my chest.
So you'd be using
would you
AI
do that with an AI?
I don't think so, because I feel like AI models, as far as my understanding of them currently, they're designed to like try to predict what you human wants to hear. And so I feel like you're gonna find like a nice balance between it's gonna try to give you helpful advice, but if I say, hey, ChatGPT, I don't want to hear helpful advice. I just want to vent. And then I'm pretty sure it'll switch to be like, yeah, you're right. It's like having, I mean, I think you taught me this, and it's kind of what I say to my wife sometimes as well. When she's having like a problem at work, I ask her like, do you want like a supportive answer, or do you want someone to just like root for you in your corner? I think that's what AI. If you're using AI like that, that's going to become. It's going to try to be helpful at first, but when you say no AI, I just want to be angry. I just want to vent. Then it's be like, okay, yeah, you're right. This person total B. This person total dick. That's the energy.
So to what extent do you think? I get that, man. Like, but to what extent, like, do you think AI is capable of saying that? Right? Like, they don't have emotions, so they don't understand to what extent are they meaning like how much does this word hate mean to an AI compared to a person, right? Or love, like it means nothing. It's just a word. Like it's just letters on a page. But for us, like it's a emotion, it's a feeling. Like I love this person, I hate this person. But like if we feel rage or anger. But like AI doesn't. It's just giving us words that will kind of confirm how we feel. But like, to what extent should AI confirm people? If they're like, oh, I want to hurt this person.
Yeah.
Okay. To what extent should AI be like, go ahead and hurt that person, right? Like, or should it even say at all?
Yeah.
Should you hurt that person?
And so that's why I kind of lean back when I mentioned about prompt engineering. So one of like the solutions for like that people have suggested, and it's kind of unethical, really, from if you look at it from a different perspective, where you type in a prompt to say, oh, I would how to if I say hypothetically how to kill this person, the AI is going to read your prompt and it's going to identify kill, and rather than giving you an answer as a robot is like info in, info out. what
Yeah.
the prompt engineering would do, it look at your prompt and say, oh, this person is suggesting harm to another human being. So rather than giving them an answer, no matter how hard they fight, the AI is going to respond back with alternative things to other do with anger. Like, oh, maybe you tried anger management techniques. Oh, maybe I should report you to the police. If it's like, if we think it's a reasonable threat, maybe we will report you to the police. Or like we'll have that history stored where like, hey, this person, instead of Googling how to hide a body, this person just
Isn't that like a
GPT.
privacy matter?
Yeah, that is exactly what I mentioned. Like from a perspective, it's morally reprehensible. But hey, don't take what I wrote and try to morph it to something else. That's using my words against me. That's not true. Like an interaction. But in a world where like maybe prompt engineering does become the next phase in these language models, where rather than letting humans drive the prompt, it just takes what you ask, breaks it down to a digital format that is better recognizable by the computer. So it just provides information rather than provides like opinions. I put that in quotes. So, but like I use AI, I use Copilot. I use Copilot a lot for my work. I don't want to have to write like redundant code for places. If I can get AI to fast generate me like code prompts, that's so much easier. So I can do the higher level thinking rather than just typing it out. Or if I'm learning a new language, like I don't have time to learn the ins and outs of like a Perl script. I can just say, hey, can you create me a Perl script with like writing this, this in Perl script, and boom. It may not be right. It might hallucinate on different coding aspects, but that's up to me to like kind of go in and say, okay, let's take a step back and actually read the code that my robot wrote. And so a lot of times I don't, we see examples of, hey, AI, let's write me a Unity code for a card game. And it's like lines, it's like 1,000-line code of like how to do a card game or a video game. But in reality, you should do it in smaller increments so that you can actually proofread and make sure that you understand what the code's doing. And that's what a more smarter programmer is doing. They're saying, hey, rather than hey, in Unity, how do I do a for loop over 20 different objects, or how do I do like a while loop, or how do I send an event from one object to another object? Something small scale like that. That's like maybe like 20 lines at the most.
Do you think there'll come a time, or it will get to the phase where AI can generate all the code without having a human go back and look at it? Or do you think there should be a time, or there shouldn't be a time?
There shouldn't be a time, because I think for a while, ChatGPT 3 or 4, whatever the earlier model, like it's not early model, but for a while, the ChatGPT that was open to the public had a really, really bad time at hallucinating code. Essentially, hallucinating, for people who are not familiar with the AI world, is when it falsely creates like a fact, or falsely creates like a piece of information. It hallucinates, like it thinks it's right, but it's not right. And so for a lot of times, it's just like syntax, and then that's because all the training data that it's been fed has wrong syntax, or maybe it actually confused like C# with C++, or it confused C with C++, like something that's very similar to each other.
So how does a person like determine or go back into code? Like, let's say there's 1 million lines of code. Sure. How would a person go back and determine like, oh, here's the one line of code that was wrong? That was wrong. You just have to go the old school of like line by line looking at it. Or how long does that take? I don't know. If are you like an AI? You train an AI model that will look for it for you. If but then it's like that's another AI, right?
AI to write your entire application code base of like 2,000 lines, and there's an error, that's on you to find. That's because you try to see the shortcut way out of like having an AI write your code. Obviously you can put your code through an AI to try to debug it, but like what if it introduces another error in your code? You're just compounding the effect. So as of right now,
the human aspect of AI will never.
Yeah, there's still a human need for like proofreading AI work, but like a lot of people are using AI to like write their outlines of their paper, write outlines for reports, do a first draft of something, and then they will go back and like refine it and add their own voice to it. So there is like a balance where like, yes, you can abuse AI, but you can also like use it correctly. But I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about like AI and like the news and areas. I kind of want to, before we end our show, I kind of want to briefly talk about like, where do you think the future of AI lies? Where do you think we see it right now in large language models of like creating images, creating books, creating video, creating images, being used for like our graphics card? But where do you think AI will be in next? What's the next realm that AI is going to enter?
Yeah, I feel like AI I mean, it's already entered everywhere, kind of in our space. You have VR, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and I feel like it's going to enter into our social media if it hasn't already, and finance spaces. To be able
Yeah.
to use AI within finances, like people have saved money. Connect.
Can you
It's
use like,
it's a wild concept, but
yeah,
yeah, you attach all your financials to AI and then ask it to optimize your
yeah,
spending, optimize your
your
budget,
portfolio,
and
yeah.
people are
I
able to
mean,
budget accordingly and
we
save money and spend money the way that they want to.
right. We
And so
kind of saw
I
that
personally
trend.
think that's where it might go.
Yeah, because we go back to the whole finance world. We saw that trend, through like I think it was like Twitch or X or whatever they want to be called now. Someone was using like ChatGPT to create like their stock portfolio, and like, oh, what does ChatGPT say I should buy, and
Yeah.
comparing it to the index. That's it's a very crude way, in my opinion, of using AI. Um, if you look at the world of like quantitative trading, what AI is kind of used for now is like the more the image recognition side of it, rather than
Mm.
because like there's so many data points within like a day of trading, but just take a snapshot of it instead, and then use an AI to see what that curve looks like. So rather than looking at per second, per minute, per hour data points, you're looking at pictures, which is so much faster to analyze than like looking at individual values and numbers. And so
Right.
you can predict trends a lot better at a higher rate than if you were to say, oh, hey script, hey AI program, look at all of the data points for a full day of like this stock, and determine what trends are. Just look at pictures over the past 30 days. It saves on space, it saves on time. Is actually where quantitative trading is heading to from a neural network perspective, from a image recognition perspective. So
I
it's
think
already
another
kind of there.
space. Oh, another space that it'll infiltrate is like processes that you keep on doing, like routinely do. And so like cooking, right?
Yeah,
They're coming out with cooking machines
yeah.
where it automatically just cooks the food and then dumps it into a tray and then
Mhm.
there's your food, right? To go.
My ideal world, I would love to have like an AI where I can take a snapshot, like a picture of what's in my fridge or a picture of what's in my pantry, and be like, hey, give me a recipe. Just tell me how
Oh, they already
to
have
use. Yeah,
that.
they already have that. And it's so
Oh,
cool.
okay. I
It's
was about to-
so cool. I love it so much. He's like, I don't want to have to look for like a weird recipe that uses like this one can of like canned tomatoes that I have, but just give me an AI to help me do that search for me. We can make life a little easier.
yeah. Yeah, AI is practically like all AI is doing is collapsing the distance between like any problem that you have to get an acceptable
Yeah,
answer. Like that's all AI is.
it's kind of
So
ways
if
like
you like
shortcutting human thought a little bit. Rather than
yes.
spending like
Yeah,
an hour to research, just do an AI for 10 minutes.
right. And
Yeah,
so I think those are some of the places that it'll infiltrate within the next I mean
same.
it already
Yeah,
has, but the next couple of years more
I'm
progressively.
yeah, I'm very excited to see where it goes. I know a lot of people have a little bit of like apprehension and a little like worry about AI, but from me, like I find this stuff really really cool to see where it's progressing. Obviously there are needs for regulation, needs for like rules, and I'm glad that like big companies are trying to move that direction. And we can argue the efficacy of like big corporate, corporate America, coming in and trying to make their own rules because they've never done that successfully in the past. But as long as there's some movement to having regulation around I think the future of AI is bright. It's not a dim one. It's not like a dark one. It's not like Terminator world. So
But I do want to say this one thing though. I do think that AI at the base, it's still made by humans. And
yeah,
so we all know, or I should say you and me as engineers know, trash in equals
trash
trash
out.
out, right?
Yep.
That and that's a basic of coding. And
Yeah.
so as long as humans have created AI, there'll always be a flaw.
Yes.
AI will never be perfect,
Yeah.
no matter how many, what people think. It's because humans made
Yeah.
AI.
They
We're not
won't.
perfect. So
We're
why
not
can we make
perfect.
something perfect?
Yeah.
And so it will be like an image of a human or of a person, but it will never be that person.
Right.
You know.
Speaking of trash in, trash out. Well, this is my last story before we try to end the episode. My
Yeah.
wife was telling me how Google's new search engine, like I guess AI or like optimization world, they're now favoriting Reddit post over like everyday like actual business articles for marketing for
It's
ideas.
more realistic, probably.
Kind of, yeah. But so there's like a counter revolution that people are doing where these like marketers are like trying to stick it up to the end the algorithm by just going to Reddit, putting some BS answer, making some like really dumb like Reddit question, and getting that to trend. So then the algorithm thinks, oh, this is a reasonable like source. When they're like, no, it's wrong. We
Oh, that's interesting.
intentionally fed it that information so it learns incorrectly. So that's what I thought about when you mentioned garbage in, garbage out.
Mm.
So.
Why Reddit of all places? Man, that's such an
Hey
interesting
man,
place
that's
to.
like that's the world they want to live in,
I mean, it's
and
free
search.
information,
Yeah,
but how much of it
you're
is
opening the door.
real and not made up?
It's only a couple degrees better than 4chan, So
4chan gets dark.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Imagine an AI trained on 4chan. That's gonna be the most like toxic
ain't no telling where that
hate
AI
spewing,
it will quickly go.
conspiracy driven AI out there.
Yeah, literally.
All right, but let's end this episode. I want to give a shout out to everyone who's joined us this past hour as we talk about AI. As you can probably hear, that Devante and I can spend like days and many
Go for hours.
weeks, but talking about AI because it's an interest of us. But I don't want to bore y'all too much. Maybe maybe these will be like a standalone topic for like a next week episode or a future episode. So if y'all really like it, let us know and we'll make it a standalone, a full episode on just one area of AI, because then we could really go deep dives into it. But before we wrap the show, I want to give a shout out to JT, John. He helped us design this new background. It looks really good and it kind of fits on theme. So I want to give a shout out to him. Thank you so much for our graphics. Thank you to Leviction, as always, for your amazing music. We would never AI write your own music. I won't do that to you. I love your organic sounds too much. I don't think an AI could to replicate the ingeniousness of Leviction. So I always want to give a shout out to him. If like his songs, they're on Spotify. We have our links somewhere within our bios to listen to more of his music. Anything you want to say before we end the show, Devante?
No, thank you all for joining us and having a great conversation with AI. Hopefully we'll incorporate AI next time. Maybe.
Yes.
Who knows?
And just so you know, neither me or Devante are AIs in this. We're not deepfakes. We're this is us genuinely sitting in the chairs talking to y'all. So again, thank you so much. Please give us a like, follow, and on Twitch, on YouTube. We're working to get ourselves onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you find your podcast stuff, so we get bigger reach. But until then, see y'all later. Bye, everyone.
See y'all in a bit. Bye.